As many new and beginning farmers discover, growing a saleable crop is only half the battle. Finding and growing a customer base for your farm products is a never-ending challenge. Learning as much as possible about your potential customers' lifestyles, needs, and desires can help you develop a product list destined to sell, as well as discovering the best ways to engage with that clientele. During a recent Cultivating Success course, one evening was devoted to the challenge of marketing. Topics included customer demographics, marketing channels, and self-promotion, along with utilizing social media, traditional advertising, and effective website creation. The speakers include Megan Mix of Hopscotch Farm and Cannery in Port Townsend, Washington, and Anne-Marie Gill from Cascade Valley Design from Duval, Washington.
I'm Megan from Hopscotch Farm and Cannery, and I grow veggies and craft farmstead pickles, relish, and preserves for a 25-member CSA, 1 farmers market, and 3 local grocery stores in Port Townsend on the Olympic Peninsula. I call Hopscotch a micro farm because it's just me. I don't have any employees, and I cultivate just over 1/3 of an acre using human scale, organic, and sustainable production methods. In the processing kitchen, I make everything by hand and craft approximately 2,000 jars of canned goods a year. I did not come from a farming background, but one day back in 2007, I happened to wander into a community garden near my house in Portland. And I was working with the garden manager there, telling her all self-importantly about all these cool nonprofit programs I was running to help people take more sustainable actions in their lives. And she looked up at me and said, you know, Megan, like, that's all really great work, but this is real life. And she pointed to our hands in the soil. Little did she know how profound an effect a simple statement like that would have on basically the rest of the course of my life. I began volunteering at the garden regularly, and I soon jumped at the chance to house sit for a rural homestead in southern Arizona for a year. And down there, I got thrust into growing a lot of my own food in the desert, no less. And somehow I ended up working at a local farm, and I loved it. Fast forward 10 years, a couple of other farming gigs, another nonprofit position, and I formed Hopscotch in 2017. I wanted to explore a niche that wasn't well represented here in Jefferson County and to increase people's options for local food. There were already a lot of other amazing veggie farms operating here in Jefferson County successfully, and I knew that at my micro scale, it would be hard to compete with their price points. So I decided that in addition to selling fresh produce, I would also make value-added products like the pickles and relish and preserves. But since I had worked on farms and in nonprofits for my whole life, I really didn't have a lot of access to land or startup capital for my new operation. So I copied a model that a few friends had been using down in Tucson and decided that I could farm on unused backyards, like with very little mechanized equipment. I put the word out, and I soon had 8 different plots. And that is where the name Hopscotch came from. It's like jumping from plot to plot. But I was able to start the farm on less than $5,000 and have never been in debt for my business, which is awesome. And while that was a super great way to start, I have since scaled back in my number of locations over time. And this year I have just 2 larger plots. My main plot is on a communal piece of property where I do have access to shared resources like a wash pack station, a walk-in cooler, room in the barn, a shared greenhouse, as well as some shared tools. I think if I could do it all over again, I might be a little bit less cautious and jump in more quickly. Instead of trying to manage 8 plots right off the bat, or even 3, I might lease land and just trust that it was enough income to pay the bills, because managing a multi-plot farm is super logistically complicated. I would also try to figure out how to fund some infrastructure investments from the beginning. So until last year, I had no walk-in or no cold storage, and I was wash packing underneath my farmer's market tent, which was really inefficient and a huge pain in the butt. And even though I just said that I might grow more quickly if I could do it again, I should also say that I did intentionally start small and grow slowly because I wanted to ensure that hopscotch was going to be successful before being all in. I should also say that until last year, I had part-time outside employment to ensure that I would be able to pay all the bills. But as of last year, I've been paying myself for all of the hours that I put into the business. So farming, food processing, administration, marketing, commuting, all the good stuff. Okay, so that was just a little bit of background so you guys kind of know and understand where I'm coming from. But now I do want to shift into how I've made hopscotch successful from a marketing standpoint. So you guys all thought that first slide was really pretty, and now this is what the rest of the presentation is going to look like. So I want to start by saying I am not a marketing expert. In fact, don't tell Kate, but I actually Googled exactly what marketing meant yesterday as I was prepping my presentation. And I also wanted to make clear that these are simply things that have worked for me in my business personally. And what works for me may or may not work for you. So this is kind of just like my story. I also want to be clear that I've been extremely lucky in a lot of regards. And am in a really unique situation that has significantly contributed to my success. So I mainly farm on shared land with a lot of infrastructure resources available to me at a really low cost. Port Townsend's also a really small town, and I've worked for several other farms and food businesses here in production, wholesale, and direct sales. So I was already super familiar with all of the marketing options that exist in my area. My husband was also born and raised here, and his family is really well connected to the community. They know a lot of people, and all those people were my very first customers. And then I also got lucky when the one other pickle producer in town moved away the year that I started my business. And now there's one other pickle producer that just started, but they get to be the newbies, and I feel like I sort of have a handle on things a little bit. I also think that a lot of my success has been due to wholly embracing my small scale. My size allows me to operate with a personal connection to each and every veggie harvested or jar processed. I'm intricately involved in each step of my process, from the growing to the prepping, to the canning, to the marketing, and every product is made with the utmost care and attention. My small size also helps me be able to pivot my marketing tactics really quickly in light of new information. So for instance, at the beginning of 2020, I was considering dropping my CSA and focusing just on the farmer's market. And then pandemic happened. And so I quickly added the CSA back on, and it now contributes approximately 40% of my income. And most importantly, I think my small size makes it easy for me to sell mostly direct to consumer. People love the fact that the person who delivers their CSA and works the farmer's market booth is the farmer and the business owner. I think a lot of folks buy from me because they know my story, they enjoy chatting with me about my operation, and they just want to support me. I've kind of inadvertently focused less on marketing my products and more on marketing myself by creating that emotional connection to my customers. And I hate saying market yourself because I really don't actually like talking about myself that much. But I have found that creating personal relationships is the best way that I have to keep my customers coming back week after week. And I really think that a lot of my customers care more about my story than about my products themselves. Okay, so market channels. How did I cultivate these connections with my customers? I certainly didn't have a grand, like, I'm going to make friends with all my customers plan when I started Hopscotch. It really happened organically. But what I did have was a fairly concrete plan about where I planned to sell my products before I even created my first production plan. And before before I was creating my business plan. And I think this is really key. A lot of farmers get into the business because they like to work outside, but running a successful farm is about a lot more than just the production side of things. What good is a gorgeous field full of produce or a walk-in full of meat if you don't have any place to sell it? And I also say this because I think that what you produce will be highly influenced by where you plan to sell it. So I can't stress enough that you need to know this piece before putting together a production plan for the year or even for your business. This was a super simple step for me because I had lived in the region for several years. I had worked for several different food businesses. Like I mentioned before, I'd handled farmers markets, farm stands, wholesale sales. And so I was already really aware of my options. I knew which the high sales and lower sales markets were, farmers markets were. I could probably list all the restaurants or most of the restaurants that were looking to buy local produce. And I already had contacts in the local grocery stores that might want to carry my products. I'd say if you are less familiar with your options, a great place to start is just to walk through the farmers market and determine what products are available at what price, or you might need to do some additional sleuthing and figure out which corner stores buy from local producers. And then you don't stop there. I used kind of like that information that I had to determine if there was an unfilled niche in my community. So for me, it was the shelf-stable canned goods. And yes, like I still get about 50% of my income, maybe a little bit more from fresh produce, but having that something extra is really draws people to me. So as I mentioned, I decided to focus on direct to consumer sales, promoting the super local aspect of my business to people who were interested in supporting the local economy and the environment through their purchase choices. So after doing some demographic research into the residents of my county, I defined my target customers as retired people who don't mind paying a premium for locally produced goods. They already shop regularly at the farmers market or the Port Townsend Food Co-op for much of their food. They value quality, nutrition, reducing environmental destruction when it comes to their food choices. My second target demographic was middle income parents with kids at home who want to feed their families high quality, healthy food, but are super busy and value the convenience of being able to purchase ready to eat canned goods that they might have made themselves if time had allowed. They enjoy shopping at the farmers market, but they don't have time to go every week. So they also do a lot of their purchasing at local groceries or via the CSA. And then my third target demographic customer base is younger foodies who have disposable income, who enjoy farmers markets for kind of the unique finds and opportunities to try new things. They value like the artisan, high quality, flavorful foods crafted from sustainably grown heirloom produce, wild crafted herbs, and berries. I think that if you are going to start with just one market channel, farmers markets are definitely the best place for a small farm to start. And here's why. They are forgiving. If you have a crop failure, there's no requirement that you bring a certain number or diversity of items, and it's okay if you have to miss a week. I know a lot of farms like to start with CSA, but in my opinion, that puts a lot of pressure on you as a grower to ensure that you have enough product and diversity for all of your members each week. And with CSA, I find that you basically have to overproduce in order to ensure that you don't underproduce accidentally, like due to factors that might be outside of your control. And then what do you do with all that surplus if you don't have a secondary market channel? Also, I love the fact that farmers markets have their own built-in marketing. It's the market's responsibility to bring customers to the market. So they're a great way for you to get your product out to a lot of people without having to do as much external promotion yourself. And I also just love selling at farmers markets because I get a better price than I would if I was going to sell wholesale. My startup costs were really low. I can set my own prices and sell in small quantities, and I can get feedback from my customers, which can be really useful. And kind of as I mentioned above, like the market really increases my exposure to potential customers or new customers or people that I might not have reached otherwise. And when I started, I actually intentionally chose the smaller of the two Port Townsend farmers markets because I thought it would give me more time to cultivate connections with my customers. And I was also a little bit intimidated by the larger market. And I knew I wasn't really going to have enough produce to sell there for the whole season. And after a year and a half at that smaller market, I did make the jump to the larger market, and I have been there ever since. As long, hard, and stressful as market day is, it's my favorite day of the week. I know this about myself. While I get tons of satisfaction from growing food and canning food, I really love interacting directly with my eaters. So it's worth it for me to spend the extra time that it takes away from production to sell my products at a market. I'm always on a high after I finish market day. And I will say that I am right on the border between being an introvert and an extrovert. But somehow the market brings out the extrovert in me. I think it's because I feel so comfortable there. I've been attending markets as a customer for 15 years and have worked at markets for 5 different businesses. More introverted folks might not have the same success in a market situation. So you really need to know yourself as well. I'm also pretty obsessive about how I display my products at the market. I've been told many times by new customers that they were drawn to my booth because of my display. They like how I'm presenting my products. They like my branding, my logo, my labels, etc. I always ensure that my produce is high quality and clean, obviously. I create a sense of abundance by stacking high, layering, having multiple layers, tilting containers towards the customer, and using as much table frontage as I can. I also restock regularly to make my booth look full. I think that an empty looking booth kind of gives the impression that the best products have already sold or that things have kind of been picked through. So as I begin to sell out, I either switch to smaller containers or I condense my display. Excuse me. I condense my display to keep the sense of abundance. Well, I just said to use as much table frontage as possible. I do think that a smaller display is better than an empty looking display, in my opinion. I also will fill gaps with pictures from my farm, an email sign-up list, business cards, etc. And then I also intersperse like popular items with less popular items. So as people are walking by to grab something, they might see this other thing, kind of to encourage them to view the whole display. And then obviously like placing different colored products next to one another when not everything is green. Sometimes it can be challenging. I also make an effort to have a lot of signage. And by a lot of signage, I mostly actually mean price signs. I ensure that every product is labeled with a name and a price. I found that customers are often not comfortable asking for prices. It makes them feel committed to the sale before they know if they even want it. And as you can see in these photos, I often put prices in more than one place. I definitely put a price on the item itself. but also on a hanging sign or even on my display sign. And then I still laugh like internally, not out loud, when people still ask me how much something costs, which happens a lot. Speaking of prices, I have also had a lot of luck with pre-weighing items that are typically sold by the pound, like onions and zucchini, bell peppers, potatoes. And I'll sell them in pint boxes. Like I think that up at the top shelf, you can see there's like strawberries and golds, peppers, plums, or small craft paper bags. And I think this makes it a lot easier for customers to quickly determine price to volume. A lot of people don't know what 1 pound of a product looks like. So showing them makes it easier to determine if they want it. So connecting to your customers, good customer service is like the best way to market yourself at the farmer's market. One of the first things that I am asked by a new customer at the market is, what's hopscotch? And I've got my like little elevator speech ready, and I don't even have to think about it anymore, although I might today because I haven't been at the market since November. But hopscotch is a farm to jar operation that grows heirloom produce and crafts farmstead pickles, relish, and preserves. I grow on just 1/3 of an acre using human scale, organic, and sustainable production methods. My goal is to create a regenerative growing system that focuses on soil health, environmental health, and nutrient-dense produce. And in the kitchen, I make everything by hand, one small batch at a time. So market is your best chance to get to know your customers and to let them get to know you. Like I make eye contact, I'm friendly and attentive. I always try to greet customers when they enter my booth, no matter how busy I am. It can be as simple like, how are you today? Or I'll be right with you. And then also, and I'll see you next week goes a long way. And as much as time allows, I really like to chat with my customers, answer questions, share info about my farm, both the good and the bad. This extra effort I put into nourishing these relationships really makes my customers more inclined to return. Most importantly, I share my personal opinion about my products. If my salad mix this week is just lettuce, because all of my goodies like kale and mizuna didn't grow as fast as expected, I make sure to tell people that. By being genuine and sharing these tidbits, customers feel invested in the farm and like they know what's going on and why things are the way they are. I do have a farmer friend who told me he doesn't know how to answer people's questions at the market because he doesn't know what they want him to say. And I'm like, well, why would you tell them what they want to hear? Like, why wouldn't you just tell them what you think? And I've received feedback from people that say he comes off as a little bit tentative at the market, or he doesn't seem happy to be at the market. So being sincere and letting your customers know if something isn't as perfect as it normally could be is a really important way to build trust. On the flip side, I try to get to know my regular customers. Maybe I ask them about the meal that they made after they bought bell peppers from me at the market last week. Or at the very least, become really good at pretending that you know who they are. So I am at the point now, I've had some like kind of unexpected publicity here, which I'll talk about later. So there's a lot more people in town who know who I am than I know who they are. So basically, I just pretend to know everybody that comes to my booth. If I don't recognize them, I'm like, hey, how's it going this week? I think it works. I also make sure to keep myself really busy at the market, rearranging, restocking. I intentionally try to create kind of this like positive, friendly, energetic, and hardworking aura. And I find that customers are attracted to this, that they're a lot less likely to enter the booth of someone who is sitting down or looking at their phone. I would say that sometimes I can take the whole busy thing a little bit too far. I label a lot of my jars at the market because I certainly don't have time for that during the week. And I'm like regularly trying to get like just one more label on the jar before someone approaches, or like one more set of labels. So then I'll end up helping them with like 5 labels like stuck to my fingers. So it's also important maybe to know when to stop what you're doing to help an approaching customer. As I have already explained, if I had to choose, I would start with farmers market over CSA, but in reality, it's they're an excellent complement to one another. They go hand in hand. So I grow more variety of crops for my CSA than I do for the farmers market, but I can always take the surplus CSA crops to the farmers market and sell them as like a specialty limited run item. Plus, the markets are a great place to advertise your CSA. Most of my CSA members in my first year were either friends of the family or were customers that I got to know at the farmers market the previous season. So I put a lot of time into cultivating my connection to my CSA members, helping them feel invested in the farm and in me, like way more time than a lot of the other local farms do, which helps set my CSA apart. So I craft a weekly CSA newsletter. These pictures just show, they don't show the whole newsletter, but basically you usually include, or almost always include, like a short blurb at the beginning with a farm update. I share like what I'm focused on this week, like bed prep or transplanting spring greens, harvesting winter squash, cover cropping. I try to have a lot of photos, or at least a few photos every week that shows what the field looks like or a beautiful harvest of a certain crop. And I include obviously like what they're going to receive in the box, but also recipe ideas to give inspiration about how to use what's in that week's box. Sometimes, depending on what's in there, I'll add what I call foodie notes, which would describe a special variety of something, or introduce a vegetable that isn't commonly known. People might not like literally know what it is, like kohlrabi. And then I include links to food-related articles that I'm reading. And then I also write a short essay each week. Would be like from the field, which would detail how I do something like trellis tomatoes, or what kind of weeding tools I use, in which situation. There's in the kitchen, which talks about canning and processing. And then, or what I call philosophical ponderings of a farmer, which is where I share my viewpoints on our food system. So I've written things like small farms in the capitalist model, or how local is local. I'm going to go back. So basically, I am trying to show my customers via CSA what it's really like to run a small farm, both the good things and the bad things, and share my farmer's perspective on our food system. The majority of my CSA customers also pick up from me in person at my house, so I have a chance to engage with them face-to-face for a few minutes every week, and it goes a long way toward developing their commitment to me. And because of these time-intensive like marketing tactics, I don't give a discount on my CSA at the beginning of the year. A lot of farmers will advertise that their pricing is like $22 worth of produce for the price of $20. I actually do the opposite. So I charge $22 and give people approximately $20 worth of produce. And I do this because it allows me to feel like I am being fairly compensated for all the time I do spend on cultivating these connections and sharing my opinions and information, writing the newsletter, doing the in-person pickups, And while I don't specifically advertise that I'm charging more than the amount of produce they're getting, none of my members have ever complained. Another thing that I started doing in 2020 was offering either or options each week. And honestly, I started this because I overcommitted to the CSA in 2020. I went from not planning to doing a CSA at all to having the biggest CSA I'd ever had. So basically, I signed up more folks than I felt like I could consistently pack for each week without drastically changing my production plan. And I didn't feel like doing that. It was the beginning of the pandemic. No one knew what was going to happen. We didn't know if the farmers market was going to open. Everybody wanted to get in on a share of food. So since I wasn't necessarily going to have 25 of each item each week, like 25 bunches of broccolini, one for each member, I started offering either broccolini or carrots. And if a member had a strong preference for one or the other, they could email me advance and make a request. So what started out as an, oh my gosh, how am I going to pull this off, quickly became one of my members' favorite parts of my CSA, because they have more choice. And as far as I know, most of the other farms in this area aren't doing that. So now I have no plans to stop doing it that way. Okay, wholesale. I don't maintain regular wholesale accounts for my fresh produce. When I first started, I did have one restaurant account randomly. I met them at the farmers market, but I found it to be more of a burden than a benefit due to my small size. So I dropped that account when I realized that at my scale, I had no problem selling all my produce directly to consumers. And since I'd already committed my time to that market channel, like, I'm going to be at the farmers market for a set amount of time, regardless of how much product I bring with me. There was no point in holding back product from the market just in order to fulfill a wholesale order at a lower price. However, I do sell my pickles, relish, and preserves and seasoning salts at 3 local grocery stores. And I made this commitment because I know that in 10 years, I'm going to be 50. And I'm probably not going to want to spend as much time growing produce with my human scale methods, bending over to harvest salad mix and hauling stuff around. So I do plan to shift my business more toward the value added side of things as I age. And it can be sometimes challenging to fulfill wholesale demand and still keep enough supply on hand for the farmers market. But I really think it's going to be worth it in the long run. And I really hope that my community finds out about my products at the farmers market and then finds them on the grocery store shelf. I think a lot of people are buying my stuff from our local stores because they found me at the farmers market first. I think it helps kind of distinguish my products from all the other options on the shelf. I will also say that when I did start doing the wholesale of my value-added products, I did a couple of in-store demos at my food co-op, which really helped get my products recognized. I had planned to do more, but pandemic, so I haven't really gotten back into it. And right now it doesn't seem like a top priority, but kind of as I make that shift in, the next several years over to maybe doing more wholesale, I will be focusing on a lot more demos and teaming up with other people to do tastings, etc. So promotion. In addition to engaging my customers at the farmers market or via my CSA, I also do some more generalized promotion, like sort of. If you haven't realized this already, I am a huge bootstrapper, or at least I'm super cheap, so I never want to pay money for anything. So I'm really unwilling to put a lot of money into things that normal businesses might consider just a routine part of overhead costs. I've never paid for any advertising, and I really don't think it's necessary at my scale. I have more demand than supply. It seems like a frivolous expense to me. But I do the following things. I have a website. I am by no means a website designer. I use Squarespace. I threw up my website in a day. I had been thinking about what I wanted to put on in terms of content while I was like working out in the field for a while, but I got it all up in an afternoon, really. And in my opinion, the most important thing that my website does for me, aside from allowing people to find out information about my CSA, is to tell my story in a friendly and conversational manner so that visitors can get to know me. The first place that I go when I see a new website for a local farm or a local nonprofit or something is the About Us page, and I read about all the people involved. So for Hopscotch, I have the story of how I started my farm, descriptions of my canned goods, how I make them, what I focus on. There's a canning day virtual tour, a basic overview of my veggie production system, and a farm virtual photo tour, CSA info, where to find my products, contact info, and then the philosophical ponderings of a farmer and past newsletters are also posted on my website. Promotion. So I mentioned earlier, a lot of like accidental luck being featured in our local papers. I've randomly been on the cover of both local papers in the past year. One because a photographer was at the opening day of the farmer's market and happened to snap a picture of me. And the other because of my Eat Local First CSA Finder listing. And when that happened, my CSA filled in less than a week last year. My Eat Local First, at the same time that like I just happened to be on the front cover of our paper because of Eat Local First was also writing a story about hopscotch, and my local food co-op did a feature about me in their quarterly print newsletter because I had been selling to them. So in these cases, I didn't really have to do any of the work myself. Like it was all super serendipitous. I was just the beneficiary. And I'm trying to think through like, how do I make these things happen to me? I don't know. But I think maybe they happen because I like to connect and network with organizations that support small farms. I think my nonprofit background has really influenced how I approach things. I'm like involved and I take advantage of opportunities. And so for Eat Local First, I was one of the first people who had made a listing in our county on the ELF website. So when a press release went out about the CSA Finder and a local reporter typed in our zip code, my farm was the first one that came up, like alphabetically. Social media. I have to admit, I'm like horrible at social media. These are tips for someone who really like half-asses it, like begrudgingly. I only got social media because I started a business. I don't have personal accounts or anything. I think it's really important to have a presence on social media and to add new content at least once every few weeks, so folks know that you're out there, you're alive, you're doing your thing. But I have realized over time that I'm not connecting with my customers on social media. As I mentioned before, I think Jefferson County has one of the oldest populations per capita of any county in the United States. So those people aren't on social media. It's not a great place for me to be advertising anyways. I have another farmer friend who was just starting out and wanted to do a CSA to bring income in right away for his business. And he was putting up post after post on Instagram, trying to get signups, and not a single person responded. And when I mentioned that I had had a lot of luck a few years earlier posting flyers around town, he was amazed. And I had to explain that our elderly population also happened to be the folks with the most money. And they're also the people who are accustomed to seeing things on flyers or in the newspaper. The younger crowd who is on social media has a lot less disposable income, or they already have a garden themselves. So he was basically preaching to the choir. I think this goes to show, again, that you should know your community, do your market research, know your customer base, and be in tune with them. So while I still meticulously post to Instagram and through that Facebook about once a week, this is a screenshot from today, I've started to see that platform as a lot more useful for me in keeping up to date with what other farmers around here are doing, or to engage with them when we are all too busy to see one another in person. I think the only piece of social media advice I can really give then is that people really like pictures with people in them, which can be really hard to pull off as a one-woman operation. But I get way more likes for any picture I post with my face in it. Branding and image. So I have intentionally created easily recognizable branding in a logo and labels for Hopscotch that I think call to my target audience. I'm going for a 50s look that will catch the attention of Port Townsend's aging population and give them a sense of nostalgia for their childhoods spent running through the garden, playing hopscotch, raiding their mom's pantries full of delicious home canned goods. It's important to consider who you plan to sell to before kind of developing your image. Will it call to them? Like, yeah, you want it to call to you, but really you want it to call to your customer base. So I'm just gonna switch gears. Let's see how we're doing on time. Okay, I'm gonna switch gears just briefly. I don't have a slide for this one, and I'm not gonna go too into the financial side of things, but I did want to touch base on pricing as a part of marketing. I have found that a lot of small farms don't have a handle on how much it actually costs for them to produce their products. Most prices at the farmers market are fairly consistent, at least within a certain range from booth to booth. And while this info is important and should be one factor in your pricing decisions, it is easy to overlook the most important, but way more difficult to determine factor of how much does it actually cost you to produce what you are selling. There are a lot of ways to determine this. When I started, I just kind of charged what everyone else was charging for my fresh produce. And then for my canned goods, I just kind of charged as much as I thought that people would be willing to pay. Since then, I've done pretty extensive analysis of my core products to determine how much each one contributes to my profit margin. And I was fortunate enough to participate for the last 2 seasons in a pilot program for the Know Your Cost to Grow. And I also got to work with a consultant early last year, through a local economic development grant, who helped me put together a spreadsheet to kind of do that same thing, finding out my costs for my value added products. And as a result of both of those things, I did make changes to my operation. However, I would say that after spending an inordinate amount of time keeping records and running numbers, I ultimately decided that while this info is exceedingly important to understand, it is not the be all end all in terms of what you decide to produce for a certain market. From a marketing perspective, you should know if a crop you're growing brings in little profit, but you might decide to grow that crop anyway for other reasons. So I consciously made the decision to continue to grow a lot of onions for several reasons. I use a lot of onions in my canned goods, and I want to grow as many of the ingredients as possible. People love having onions in the CSA. It's a little different from some of the other kind of like fresh produce options that they get. And mainly because it's so nice to have a huge display of onions to fill out my market booth in November when I don't have nearly as many other fresh options, but I still want to be there and look abundant so I can sell my canned goods. And as a storage crop, I put in all the effort up front, and then I keep on reaping the rewards during the slower months. So I think that as long as you understand why you're making the marketing decisions that you make and you have good reasons to do so, it's okay to sell some less profitable crops as long as you balance that with the profitable ones too. So in summary, if you haven't noticed, I maybe approach farming from a little bit of a different perspective than a lot of other people do. I totally nerd out on planning and administration, and I love playing with numbers. And I absolutely love making friends with all of my customers. But in summary, I think the most important tips that I can give that's worked, like what works the best for me, is like really intimately knowing my community, knowing myself, being genuine, and making those connections with my customers, sharing information about my farm and my products, showing them what the farm is like, and really giving them like kind of a peek into my life, like giving them a sense of what I do.
So this is some of what I'm going to talk about today is, first of all, why every business needs a website. And I'll go into more depth of this list, but also what goes on a good website, what you need right away, some choices to think about when you're building a website and why you should, the pros and cons of each choice. And then I'm going to go over some tools and resources. Some of them are free, that might be helpful when you're starting a website. So just a little bit about me. I am celebrating 20 years now as a website designer and development. I'm myself an entrepreneur. I started designing websites, hard coding websites back in 2001, before there were any sort of DIY website builders. And I did it on the side while I had a full-time job, and I really liked it. It was just something that I was drawn to. And then in 2009, when my second daughter was born, I bit the bullet and I said, I want to do this full time. And I started getting referrals, and it's grown so much since then. I really focus on helping small businesses, nonprofit organizations. I live in the Snoqualmie Valley, in between Carnation and Duval, lots of farms where I live. And I've been a part of the chamber and a lot of organizations, and I just love supporting my community. But it's also a business that I've supported businesses all across the country and even internationally as well. But over time, I got too busy, and I was able to hire a couple of gals that helped me out. And so we're a team of 3 working moms. So happy International Women's Day today. So I thought I'd point that out. And over that 20 years, I've probably designed and supported close to 1,000 websites, all different sorts of websites, e-commerce and business websites, services, blogging, and farm websites as well. And I don't just do web design. I help people, I support them through hosting, and email marketing. So because I started when I did, I've kind of grown up with like the vast choices of what there is to having a website. I kind of got lucky in that way. If I started now, I feel like it would have been a lot more complicated to get started. But I really try to work with my clients to make all the choices easier, because there's a lot of things to think about when some things that a lot of people don't even realize when you design a website or start your website. And one of them, and this isn't covered a lot, and when people talk about marketing, is being the master of your domain. And I mean that literally, your domain, your URL for your business. When you are picking a name, making sure the domain name is available. I have run into so many businesses that like have gone through the whole process of their business plan and signing up for a business license and gotten so far, and then they start their website and realize the domain name for their exact business is already taken, and so they have to use a hyphen or they have to use a .net. So it's one of those things to kind of think about when you are choosing a name. I mean, you can do different versions of your name, but if you can have it as close as you can possibly to your farm name or your business name, the better. And make it a .com if you can. I mean, unless you're a nonprofit, even if you are a nonprofit and you have the .org, you always want to get the .com, because that's what people are used to typing in. Some people are just going to type in your URL, they're going to see it places and they're going to type it in, and not always go to Google to find it. So what I tell my clients is, not only get the .com, but also get the .org, the .net, maybe even the .info. Domain names are cheap. You can start off, sometimes introductory fees for each domain is like $8 a year, and it probably won't even go up to $15 a year after that. And the reason you might not use those at all, but it secures it so nobody else takes it. And that way you kind of dominate that name, and you can always redirect any of those back to your main website. And you should own your domain. I've had a lot of my clients say, oh, well, you get it for me. Your domain is the key to everything. That's where you point to your business email and point to where your website lives. So if your web designer owns it and they take off and disappear, which I've heard happens sometimes, or you can't get in touch with them and your domain expires, you lose your website, you lose your email. So you want to make sure it is under your name and you have access to it and you buy it. And I usually use GoDaddy. I don't use GoDaddy for anything else but hosting domains. That's what they started as. They have lots of ads trying to get you to buy everything else. And there's another place called Hover if you don't like GoDaddy, but that's where I keep all of my domains. They're really fast at making changes, and that's what their main focus is. And every business should really think of their website as the centerpiece of their marketing. You can have social media, you can have videos on YouTube, you can have emails that are going out, but everything should point back to your website because you have control of that. And it's, the base of the information that you are getting out. So really the website should be kind of the first point of your online marketing. And then everything else kind of branches off like this wheel. And you want to have your website on flyers, like Megan said, and your email signature and business cards. So you want everybody to come back to your website to get any information about your business. Having a website is really important because people are looking for you. I mean, I can't tell you how many businesses, not so much anymore, but like when Facebook first came out and business pages were really popular, people will be like, well, why do I need a website? I'll just use Facebook. And I still run into people and I'm like, as not everybody's on Facebook or Instagram, and you don't really have a lot of control of what Facebook does with your information. They'll change their algorithms all the time, and you might not be in front of people one day. And so people use Google to search for especially local businesses. And you can see from these statistics that 89% of consumers will go to Google first before they go to other channels to look for your business. And I'm focusing on Google because that is the most popular search engine. There's Bing and there's Yahoo. And you don't really need to do much to get on those. It's not like you submit your website to these different places. They will pick it up. I'll talk a little bit about the steps you do need to take to get listed in certain areas. But when it comes to search engines, once you're on Google, you'll start showing up on the other ones, but it's so low down on the totem pole, as you can see from some of these stats, that most people just go to Google. What shocked me was that there are 63,000 search queries per second on Google. Nuts. And 93% of all web traffic is via a search engine. So people are looking for you. So it's important to have to cater to people who are searching for what you have to offer. And another reason is that you own it. It's you can shape your website the way you want. You have control of what people see. You have control of the design. You can collect people's information with their permission. I mean, if you've ever tried to communicate with the business on Facebook, they just have your profile. They don't have your email address. You got to share that with them. So you can get more information to build up your customer list on your website than you can other channels. And you can sell and showcase whatever you want. And you're not bound by the rules of these social networks on how people see your business. Is, it's a popularity contest. And I mean, sure, search engines have their own type of algorithm, but when it comes to actually how your website feels and looks, that's all under your control. And that doesn't mean that you shouldn't have any social media accounts. In fact, I feel like that is kind of like the next step, is making sure that you do have a Facebook business account, that you do have, if you do have a YouTube account, if you're going to do videos, because Google owns YouTube, it would be great if you had an Instagram account and a Google business account, which shows you on a map when people look for you, especially on the phone. And the thing is, all of those are listings when people search for you. So if they look for the name of your business, they're going to see your website, they're going to see your Facebook page, and then they're going to see your Instagram page. And so it gives you credibility, and Google starts to boost you up when you've got all of these places pointing back to your website. So it builds it. Google sees you as like more popular, and the thing is, like Megan said, you don't have to be like completely active on those social accounts all that much, every once in a while. But the fact that you claim it, I have to tell you a story too, because this has just happened today. It's not just claiming them to get to show up on search engines, but it's also so nobody else claims them. There's so much fraud these days, and people trying to be an imposter or act like a different business, and that's another reason to claim all the other domain names too, is that you don't want anybody else to grab it and then like try to steal your business or act like you. I had somebody, one of my clients, reach out to me today, and somebody was acting like her business on Venmo. I had never heard of that before. Venmo, where you can, transfer payment to between people. You can also have business accounts on Venmo. Well, somebody put out her name. They even have the website link on Venmo, link back to her site, but they were collecting her money. So I was like, wow, that's one more thing that we have to think about, is claiming that so nobody else. Now, yes, you can get that back. You have to go through a long process to get that back. And like, she's been trying to work with Venmo all day, and they're like, sorry, you have to get attorneys, or you have to go down this path. It was just like, wow, okay, that's one more thing to think about. And then having a website is important because you want to build your fan base. It's a place where you can tell your story and write blogs about, or blog posts about your farm and what's going on. You can sell things. You can book events and classes and tours. And it's a place where you can gather emails and consistently communicate with your fans and your audience. And I'm not saying the more often you communicate, but just being consistent. Like if you have a weekly newsletter, or something that you're going to post on your website every week, so you announce what's what's growing. I mean, people start to get to know you and get excited. And so you want to inform them of what's going on with your business, and you'll start to grow this fan base that's connected to you through your website. And of course, there's so many ways to make money with a website too, besides just, communicating with your followers and your fans. You can sell digital downloads, membership programs. You can sell your CSA, monthly programs to your customers. Like I said, event tickets, classes, tours. You can advertise products and get commissions from them. I have one client that she does a lot of canning at home. She's got and she makes a lot of recipes, and so many of her fans are asking, "Ooh, what blender do you use, and what kind of cooktop do you have, and what kind of spatula do you use?" I mean, and so she has built up these links to like Amazon. So these are the products that I use, and she makes a little bit of money off of that. So you can do that too. And then there's some people that have ads on their website and make money from that if you choose to do that. It's not a whole lot. You have to have a lot of traffic for some of these things, but those possibilities are there. So I feel like your website is the most important online marketing tool that you have. And so next I want to talk about what is important to have on a website. And it can be really overwhelming when you look at some websites, especially that some farm websites that I was looking at for this presentation that we can review together. It can be overwhelming how much they have on them, right? So the thing is, you don't have to have everything when you get started, but you want to have like the checklist of just a few things, and then you can grow from there. I mean, you're looking at this page template, and it's just, you don't have to start off having everything. In fact, I just landed a big account with this like robotic arm company, and they're a startup company. I know they're going to grow, but they don't have anything. They have 4 pages on their website because they're just hiring right now, and then we go to phase 2 when they have their product, and then we'll start lining up their product and selling it. But they immediately knew that they had to have a presence, so they looked legit and reputable, and people could learn really about their story right now. So it's something that can grow with you as you add more things and grow your business. So don't feel overwhelmed that you need to have a lot to get started. I sometimes build 1-page websites for people, but just getting started is the big point. But let's go over a few things. It sounds like you guys have heard a lot about branding, which is a big deal. I mean, you want people to, you want to have a good name and logo, and colors that match your style and reaches your audience. So it's just important to have that for your website. In fact, that's one of the first questions that I ask my clients is, do you have your logo and your colors and what fonts you want to use? That's not always the biggest point, but if they have it, great. And I show this picture because I just, this whole branding campaign for the Kraken was just phenomenal. It was so creative. I think it's really, you don't have to go this deep, and I'm sure they paid like tens of thousands of dollars to set up this whole branding campaign. But I think it's also really good to kind of have not only your logo, but like a little graphic so you can use that in different places as well. It's not necessary, but it's kind of a nice thing. Like they have the S there and the anchor that they can use in different places. And the next thing that you want to have on your website that a lot of people don't realize right away is making sure that you have a clear description of your business right on the homepage. People sometimes, it's a fast world. People want to land on your website, know what you're doing, and know what you're offering. And as you grow, you probably can't list everything, but just being clear that you are a local farm and kind of your tagline or your motto. You don't want people to scroll down too far to try to figure out what you do. I mean, I've worked with so many people who are like, well, they should know, they should know from my name. And they're so involved in their own business, they don't realize that people landing on their site for the first time, maybe have no idea what they're offering. So you want to keep it simple. I'm putting some examples on here too. Some websites that I have designed. Hopefully this will load up. So this is a local this is not, some of these are farm sites and some of them aren't. But this is like a local venue that just opened in our community. And, it's a gathering place. It's a music and event venue. And it tells you exactly where it's located. And then we go down and we talk about the story and the upcoming events. But right away, you know what Miller's is. Well, I need to move my... Let's go back here. I'm just developing this one website about women adventure tours in Arizona and Utah. And this is a little wordy, but we made sure that when people land on the page, they see this, the pictures, but they know that it's, custom tours in Utah and Arizona. And she wanted even more words on here. I'm like, let's trim it down so people land on here and they can read this and know what it's all about and then learn more. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind when you are, how important that piece is. And then of course, make it easy for people to contact you. You want to have an email. You don't always have to have a phone number when you're starting out. People are really comfortable just filling out a form and contacting you. Of course, as you grow, you want to have all that established. If you're a place where people are visiting, you want to have them. Be great to have a map with maybe a link to Google Directions. And then if you have hours that you're open, you always want to list those as well. I've been working with with the Grange, which Kate knows the owners of the Grange. They own a restaurant and a farm. And so the farm feeds into the restaurant. So it's a kind of a farm to table type of restaurant in Duval. And they have their hours right on the top, on the header of every page, right? I mean, that's one of the main reasons why people go to their website, is to find out when they're open. So I think it's really important if you're a place where people visit, that you really make sure that you keep that information up near the top and consistently available and accurate too. It's also important, there's the map listing in Google, which I'll show you a little bit later, but make sure if you update one place that you also update the other. I saw a lot of issues with this during COVID when times are changing of restaurants and businesses. And I would show up a business because Google online listing said one time, but then they said, oh, but we updated our website, but they didn't update in the other places where even Facebook has hours, right? So you kind of want to, especially if you are a farm where you've got like pumpkins and, if you got a seasonal, if you have people coming seasonally and you have different hours, even if you're closed for the winter, you want to say, hey, we're closed right now, but opening in September. Just kind of make sure that people know that they can come to your website or wherever they go and have reliable information. Let's see here. Mobile friendly. This is growing like crazy. How many people are looking at websites on their phone? I mean, it's like, it says 60% here. And I have access to a lot of my clients' analytics. So I see how many people are visiting their websites on desktop and mobile. And it really is 50% or higher for some businesses, especially if you are a place where people are coming to visit. Sometimes they're looking at as they're getting there on their phone. The good thing now, if you're just starting a website, is that most website templates already have mobile friendly templates built in. Like you start a template, it automatically looks good on a phone. So there's not really much you need to do. You just need to make sure that the most important things are near the top. or in kind of a hovering footer. You want to test it yourself. Make sure that you look at it on your phone. Make sure that you can fill out the form that goes to you on your phone, because people can get frustrated if that kind of stuff is not there readily available. And you can actually go to this website too and test to see if Google thinks your website is mobile friendly, because Google will rank you higher. They have a lot of different points in their algorithm on how you rank. But they have said, and they sometimes share these points, they have said if you have a mobile friendly site, they will rank you higher. Especially, they know when somebody's looking and searching on their phone for a business. If your site is not mobile friendly, they may push you down off the search engine on a mobile device. So it's really important that your site is mobile friendly. Testimonials. Now, you might not have testimonials right away, but it's okay if you're starting to gather testimonials and reviews online to copy and paste them on your site. And I do that for customers all the time. And it's nice to kind of have that humanizing voice from people, and it just adds credibility. I'm going to just show you a couple of examples. Of course, not all of these are farms, but this is actually a cleaning or power washing business in Long Island. But they actually have this very robust review system. And a lot of these kind of carpet cleaning service businesses have it, where they actually pull in reviews from Google and Facebook. So you can pay money and have these kind of widgets pull in those into your website for you, so you don't have to. But you can also just copy and paste it too. And let me just show you. You can make them look pretty. I have, they don't just have to be, plain Jane. I'm going to probably show you this website a little bit more in a minute, so I'll keep it open. But she's got these rotating testimonials, and she made these all herself. A lot of these graphics she did herself, using something called Canva, which is free graphic design program. And so you can make them look nice too. Let's see. Oh, and as Megan talked about, the about page. I was so glad she talked about that, because especially for a farm, it's so important that people learn about your story. They want to feel connected to your passion, and it really helps them connect more with what you're selling, and they feel like they get to know you. And it's not all talk. I mean, in the statistics that I can see, the about page is like the second most visited page on some of these websites. And I think the Grange, using them again, is another great example. Their restaurant is in an old historic building in Duval. So they talk about kind of the history of the Grange building. And then they also talk about their farm and how they're connected. And then they also have a little bit about the owners and about the chef too. So, and a lot of farm sites have about the story. And, as a business owner, I mean, I understand it's kind of uncomfortable sometimes talking about yourself, but people want to know, and it's really a great selling point for your business. And if you feel uncomfortable writing it, you can talk to somebody and tell them your story, and they can help you write it. So sometimes it's hard to do it yourself. So how to create a website? I don't know if all of you have a website yet, but you can go the DIY route, like Megan was talking about, or you can hire a professional, and there are pros and cons to both. And so it's just, what's right for your business at the time, and how much money and time you want to invest. So there's so many different platforms you can choose from, like Squarespace and Wix and Weebly, WordPress.com. GoDaddy even has a version of a website builder. And the pros are that it's low cost sometimes. Sometimes you can't do things unless you upgrade and upgrade and upgrade. And before you know it, you're paying more than you would a professional. So you got to kind of be careful and know what you're getting into. Many of them have some excellent pre-designed templates. I mean, they're getting better and better and better. Squarespace specifically has some great templates. And you can get done fast. Like Megan said, she got hers up in a day. So if you need something fast, these are great platforms to work in, and they are good for simple sites. I don't work in these DIYs. I design my own in the WordPress.org, which is a more robust version of the free version, and it's more flexible to my clients' needs. But I have worked with lots of clients in these platforms, when they've got just simple websites. But I've also had people come to me and say, I've hit a wall. This is frustrating. It's not as easy as they made it out to be. I can't do this. I can't do that. And sometimes they are limited in their functionality when you start to grow your business. So for those 4-page at 1-page website where it's just simple information, but then when you're starting to write a blog or sell things, a lot of these platforms may have that capability, but they're not robust. You start to think about I wish I could do this and I wish I could do that. And sometimes you just can't in these platforms. And so I've actually transferred many sites over from these platforms when people hit that wall. Or you can hire a pro, hire a professional web designer, and it helps you get started off right and set it up to grow. And websites can be complicated. There's so much to know about websites and how they get listed, and a lot of stuff in the back end. So a professional web designer can provide you recommendations, and they're a partner in your success, somebody that you can ask questions about. How do I do this? Or I'd like to do this. And I start out with asking my clients what their wish list is. If you had the perfect website and you could have it do anything you wanted, what would it be? And then we work from there. And you might not know what you want to do with it, but having a professional set it up right so you can grow. And what I do for my clients is I design it the way they want. We work together, and then I provide them little videos specifically for their website so they know how to update it all on their own. You don't have to work with somebody that you don't have control over your website. Some people like that. They don't want to touch it. You can have that kind of relationship. And I have that with some of my clients that just hire me to update it or make this change. But most of my clients take my videos and update it themselves on their own, because I don't always have time to update it as quickly as they want. So there is that option. They can do it themselves. And, the negative part is that it is expensive. A lot of custom websites are, $2,000 and up. And then it can be slower. It's a high demand type of, I'm working with a lot of clients right now. And so my time frame, as I get more clients, it's stretched out. Sometimes it'll take 6 to 8 weeks to develop a website, or there's a wait list. So it just depends how long you're willing to wait. But the great thing, no matter what you do, is the website is all of your own. And it's just, it's your voice. It's the way you want it to present your business. It's all up to you. And since we're talking about farms, I just wanted to show you a few websites. Like I said, I live in the Snoqualmie Valley. So a lot of these farms are based in that area. We have a lot of great farms, and a lot of them are doing different things. And so they're showcased differently on their website. So I just wanted to show you some examples of all the different things that these farms are doing. Like I said, the Grange, I focused a lot on that, but they have grown. They not only have their food menu on here, but they also have a general store inside. And so we've hooked up the products in their store so people can buy them online and then pick them up in person. So it's kind of, it syncs up together. They order it and they pick it up the next day. They have events. They have rentals. So that's one. This is Roots and Boots Homestead. This is a gal that I've worked with for like more than 10 years, and her and her family have a farm in Virginia, and they homeschool their kids. And they've really just been growing food for themselves, but now they started to have like, you know, a farm cart like every week. And so they had me develop our farm stand. They had me develop this where people sign up to know what's going to be at the farm stand that week, and they provide their hours and that sort of thing. She actually started off blogging for many years about real food, organic cooking, and she would provide recipes. I mean, she's got probably like 3,000 blog posts on this website. She wasn't making any money off of her website for a really long time, and now she's got digital downloads, and she's got, you know, t-shirts with Roots and Boots on it, and she's got seasonal monthly a monthly plan that we just launched where she's got recipes and a tour of her farm that month. And I mean, there's just so much that you can do, but it took her time. It took her a while to get to this point. Hollyhock Farm, this is pretty much a basic website, but what I like about it is that she's constantly, well, not now, but she was, when the farm was active and they had the farm stand, what she would do is once a week update the latest news that automatically goes to her email list, and her subscribers got that update automatically. So you can do that. You can just write it out on your website and it automatically gets sent to the people that signed up for it. And so that's something that I help work, and you can design it to look good. And so that's another great way to communicate is, and that way it's in both places, right? And people land on your website, but they can also get it through their email. Local Roots Farm. I think there was a reason why I put this on here. This is not one that I've done. Oh, you can also use your website to, if you're hiring, use it to have like, you know, showcase some job openings that you have. And I think they talk a lot about their CSA on here too. Sign up for our order list, watch YouTube TV. By the way, you can embed videos on your website from YouTube. So if you have a YouTube channel, which is really easy to do, it's free, and you upload videos on there easily. You just take the link and put it right into your website, and it lives on YouTube. So it's not like you're taking up space on your website account. It's actually being played through YouTube, but people can see it on your website. And you don't want too many people to be leaving your website if you want to keep them in there so they learn more about you. So you can have like a whole page of these like videos that people can watch. And then Oxbow, which is this picture, big farm, but it's grown. I mean, I remember when it was smaller, but now, I mean, this is right by my house. I drive right by it all the time. But now they have a farm stand and a CSA, and you can go to summer camp there. I didn't do this website, but man, this is like, this is just chock full of programs, and you can sign up for membership here. Novelty Hill Farm, this is interesting. This farm doesn't even grow anything from what I know. They, you know, bring in Christmas trees in the Christmas season, and they bring in, I think they might have some land where they grow some pumpkins across the road, but a lot of times they just use their barn to book events. And so like you can have birthday parties here, or source on a fundraiser for the community. And this is just kind of a picturesque farm that you come right into town from Redmond, and you see this farm. So it's really easy to notice. So this is their way of bringing people to their farm. And see, this is what I mean. You got to keep your hours updated because this is kind of old news here. Oops, let me go back real quick because I want to show you another thing. So I'll just go to one more. Muddy Boot Farms, that's close to us. You know, they have their, they are just all about people coming to visit during the fall. And so this site, they've got it's very lively in the fall. They've got Instagram feeding into their website. They have the open hours. And when you get there, you can purchase things. I have a Muddy Boots t-shirt, and you can even sell those on your website if you want. So there's all different things that you can do depending on what your focus is. And then I wanted to let you know of some free resources that I always have in my back pocket. There is, I showed you a lot of different graphics, and a lot of my clients are starting to design their own graphics. If that's something you like to do, Canva.com, it's like canvas without the S, has many different templates. If you want to create a flyer, if you want to create something for a Facebook post, it has the right size. You know, they have a whole bunch of images you can use on there, lots of different fonts. So you start off with you search for, I want to make a business card, and it comes up with all these different templates. So it's really made, you don't have to like have training, you don't have to buy some expensive software. Canva, it's all online based. And you can do a lot with the free version. Also too, another thing that you can do if you want to sell 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 items under 10, you can start off with Equid. It's a terrible name. It's like e-commerce widget. Not a lot of people really know about this, but I think it's so great for people starting out that just want to sell something on their website. I know that the DIY like Squarespace and Wix and Weebly have those already, but Equid can fit into any of those places, and it's free to start off with, and it's just out of the box. It looks beautiful, and you don't have to upgrade your account in Squarespace or Wix or Weebly to get this sort of shopping e-commerce software, which I think you need to do in those platforms. If you don't already have an email marketing business that you're working with, website, like, and I'm talking about Constant Contact, I'm sure many people have heard of that. There's lots out there, but my favorite, I've been using them forever, even before I was building websites, is MailChimp. And I encourage all my businesses to sign up, my clients to sign up for them, because they're the only one out there that is free for 2,000 email addresses. And also, if you're not sending a lot of emails, they'll get you. If you send too many, then you have to upgrade. But if you're sending, once a week to 100 people, then it will be free forever, So until you reach that threshold of 2,000 emails, then you don't have to pay. And it's what I hook up to a lot of people's websites. So when they write a blog or they send out newsletters, they have beautifully designed templates that look good on mobile. And you do have to use an email marketing service to send bulk email. By law, you do. You can't just send it from your Gmail account or Outlook. They'll start to bounce. People mark it as spam, and it's part of the spam law is when you send bulk, you do have to use a service. So I highly recommend that. And then don't forget, this is free and extremely valuable, is make sure that your business is listed on Google. It's google.com/business. It's this little thing that pops up when you're looking for a restaurant or, a salon or a farm. So you can collect reviews from here. You can add a post on here. You can add lots of pictures, connect it to your website. And the fantastic thing is it's free, and it lists very high up in search, especially on mobile phones. So that's something you really want to do, when you're ready to kind of launch your business. And then the last thing I want to talk about is it's paid for, but it's helpful if you don't have a lot of money to hire like a graphic designer to make your logo. Some graphic designers will charge you thousands of dollars to make a logo, and you don't want to sometimes go to the bottom of the barrel, like, some of these $5 services that design a logo, or even a high school student that might not have the skills. And so I recommend 99 Designs because it's right in that middle range. And let me just show you really quick. And I've had really great luck with 99 Designs. And you can get a logo for, I think, like $300 on here. And why would you want to do that? It's because they give you all the different files that you need for your logo. So if you scroll, of course, they put the lower price on the bottom, but the logos, where is it? Logo right here. You go to logo. It's kind of hard to find because I don't want you to find it. Here we go. Logo design. I would just go here. $300. What it is there's a whole bunch of designers, a part of the system, that compete. So you fill out a form, you tell them your demographic, you tell them kind of your colors and what you want, and then you get a whole bunch of choices of different different logos. And then you pick like your top 5, and then you narrow it down to the winner of the contest. And then that designer gives you so many different types of your logo, like stacked and horizontal and in vector format, so it can be blown up for posters. So you just want to make sure that you're not just going to somebody and they just give you a JPEG of your logo this big, because you won't be able to use it in all of your marketing. I'm sure you probably talked about this, but I just wanted to show you this as kind of a nice tool to have. This is a quote that I have on my website because it's so cool. It's so cool if you think about it. I mean, like, people can come to your website in the middle of the night and learn about you, and no employee is going to be doing that. So, people, they've done some recent studies, and people want things now when they want it. So if they want to find out about you at 2:00 in the morning, you want to give them that information. And so the website really is one of the best marketing tools that you can have for your business. And here's my contact information. I love helping entrepreneurs and small businesses. Even if you have a question about anything, what best avenue to take, or if you have a technical question I can help you with. I really like helping my clients understand technical things and making them easier for them to digest, and because it doesn't have to be hard. So anyway, that's all I have.
As you have heard, there are plenty of things to consider as you develop a marketing strategy for your farm. From a website to marketing channels, everything is driven by the demographics of your customers and meeting them literally and virtually, where they live, eat, work, and play. We want to thank our presenters for sharing their insights on direct-to-consumer marketing. We hope you find them of value as you build your own small farm. Thank you for listening.